Hey yo, hey yo.
This is how a great way you start off the episode. So hey
Yeah,
y'all, hey,
yeah.
it's another episode of Bonafide, her podcast featuring the one and only
Oh yeah.
Tauris Watson.
Oh yeah. We in this thing. Hey, you saw I brought my little mic for you. You saw I got all right.
I'm
You saw I got
here
my mic. Now you know I'm tuned
for you.
in. I'm tuned in. I'm locked. I'm locked.
Oh, you brought a mic too.
I'm locked. I'm
Yeah.
locked.
Oh, that's a nice mic too. How you doing,
Appreciate
sir?
you. Appreciate. I'm good. How are you? How are you?
You know we blessed to be alive. You know
Always
we
blessed and highly favored. That's the only
hallelujah,
way.
hallelujah. So hallelujah. So we gotta get started. So Taurus, can you tell us how you got to where you are in your sports journey?
Yeah. So, growing up, I'm from the country, man. I'm a country kid. I was raised up on family. Family means everything to me. Grew up in a small town called Baseburg, Leesville, South Carolina. A lot of people won't know that. A lot of people won't know where that is. That's fine. We'll still do us anyway. Um, small town. Grew up with a basketball in my crib coming home. My dad, he played college, at USC Aiken. And since I was born, he kind of put a ball in my crib and kind of like paved the way for me to get where I am today. I started at a really young age, watching the game first. Not a lot of people don't know, but I grew up watching street ball before I watched everything. So, like Hot Sauce, The Professor, all those guys, like I wanted to imitate that. I was always felt like I could be a crowd pleaser. I was the one to, engage with everybody, make sure everybody having a good time and things of that nature. I wanted to be exciting at a young age. And that kind of carried on throughout my career. But started really playing when I was around 6. Started really getting into it, started training, being in little rec leagues. From there I went to Gilbert Middle School, Gilbert Middle School. I was at Gilbert Elementary as well, but really started playing on school, like school ball and school level at Gilbert. And my middle school journey was kind of, I would say it was kind of strange, because that's the first time you're really getting your feet wet, where you really have a structured situation. Um, I think that kind of really paved the way for me as far as like understanding, oh, okay, like if this is what you want to do, then this is what it takes. And I pride myself on working hard and things of that nature and being humble. So I think from that aspect, I think that's really a good mark point for where I ended up going in my career. Um, Outside of middle school, I ended up playing AAU my first season, Midlands Heat. Um, my dad was the coach on the team. He's always been my coach for everything, until I was in high school. Um, we were terrible. We were terrible at first. And that taught me like that I hated to lose, you know. And and for a while, like if you lose for a good bit, you can see it a lot of times it's easy to become complacent and comfortable with it. So I kind of decided at that moment that I didn't really want that for myself anymore. So then we transferred and transitioned to the South Carolina Hornets. Shout out my boy Ja. Shout out to Zion. Y'all know how we do. That was a great situation for me. So my group was the youngest group to come through there. So we were the final group for South Carolina Hornets. So everybody they kind of give us the stuff on it. They say that we were babies, the babies of the group, which is still super dope. We're all still close with each other, the whole organization and all that good stuff, even though it's not organization anymore. But throughout that whole aspect, AAU is just a fun, I think as a young, player, when you're playing AAU, it's more about having fun, like loving the game more than it is, really being that. You know what I'm saying? And for me, it was that all the time. And I had a great time with it. Really enjoyed watching the older guys play, the Jaws. So this is at the time when didn't nobody really know who Ja was for real. Zion was getting all the shine, and then my shouts out to big bro Devontae Schuler. He was getting the most love at the time as well. And you have the other great players that was playing on the organization too. So that's where you develop a love for it, and that's where I did as well. And transitioning through that, it was great. Um, Ended up playing in high school. I ended up at White Knoll High School. Had a great career there. Could have did a lot better than I wanted to, but I ended up like leading scorer there. Most points in the season. So a lot of accolades came with that, and that's really where I started to get my feet wet and understanding how good I could really be at it. And I think that's really when it hit me that this is what I want to do. So with that, I kind of took that in the aspect of, okay, if I want to do this, then I have to take it up another level. Because being especially in high school, I think it hits harder when that's when rankings start coming out, and that's when you got friends that's doing at other schools doing this and doing that. So for me, it was always, and shouts out to my boys, it was always Miles Tate, PJ Hall. Every time I seen them, they were number one, number two on the rankings list. And then it kind of trickled on from there. Shouts out to all my boys. Um, and it kind of trickled on from there. And I was never on the list. And it wasn't until that junior year of high school where I started to get a little notoriety and a little bit of recognition for myself. But after that year is when I transitioned to gray. And shouts out to Dion. When I transitioned to gray, everything changed. That's when all the accolades started coming in, the offers, the notoriety. Won state championship, 1,000 point scorer, McDonald's All-American nominee, player of the year, all that good stuff started coming from there. And and from that aspect, I thank God that my journey was what it was. I feel like my whole career has been the underdog, and in some aspects it's still that way. And I love it, because every time it's been in that situation where somebody thinks that I'm on bottom, I end up coming out on top at the end. And it's been hard for me to understand that aspect. You got to ask a lot of questions. You got to do a lot of deep diving with yourself, and realizing like why, and understanding who you are and what you do really. And I think that that's just been a great journey and understanding like who you are and what you can be, and what God has planned for you. And with that being said, that kind of led on to the next phase that I went on to in my life, which COVID hit. I graduated in 2020. Ended up going prep because the offers that I had, they kind of fell through due to COVID, and guys getting their extra year back. So I went prep, went to Central Point in Orlando, Florida. Didn't want to go there. Didn't want to go there at all, actually. I hated the fact that I had to go down there, but you gotta take it with a grain of salt, take it on the chin. So I went down to Orlando, and it was Orlando was a unique situation, man. It's a whole different vibe. Like it's not the country, so this is my first time moving away from home. Like I'm big on family, so I've always been like with my folks. Like if I'm doing anything, I'm with my folks. My friends are my cousins. You're only gonna see me with them. I'm not a partier. I don't do nothing crazy. I stay to myself and stay with my people. So it was just one of those situations where it's like, all right, this is a whole new aspect for you. So going to Florida, it was scary, honestly. I didn't know what to expect. I was scared of meeting new people at the time. And it was just one of those aspects where it was like, all right, well, if I'm here, I might as well make the most of it. And it turned out great. I ended up being one of the leading scorers in the country. I averaged like 26 points a game. Ended up getting committed to a school, great school, by the way. Um, Ended up falling through when I was about to head out to go down there, because they had a returning guard coming back. It was a whole situation. So again, devastated. It's like, man, what am I gonna do? what was the situation. I put all my chips in that bag, you know, and after that, we kind of decided that's when we were gonna go to JUCO route, which again, hated it. Cried to my dad for like 2 hours, bro. I don't want to go to JUCO. JUCO has a bad rap, man. They considered the hood of all basketball. Like nobody's gonna recruit me from there, man. They're gonna think that I ain't doing my work. Like what? Like what's up? Like why is this happening to me? And you know, we took it with a grain of salt. My father always told me, you know, God always gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers, and you know, you gotta take that with a grain of salt. So you know, once again, I went having to prove myself, win JUCO. I was in the Panhandle. Shouts out to Gold Coast State, man, the best conference in the country. Um, did great. Ended up getting freshman of the year, first team all conference, and I ended up committing to Wofford. Shouts out to my boy Chevy. We gotta get you back on the podcast, man.
Shout out to
and,
Chevy.
and but Wofford was a great situation. Looking into it, you know, when I first went in there, I felt like I was extremely confident. I was playing the best basketball I was in my life. And you know, when I got there, I felt at home. You know, it was a great situation. Wofford isn't a really big school, it's a private school, which is perfect for me. It was close to home. And you know, I felt like it was a perfect situation at the time. Uh Shortly after that, the head coach that recruited me ended up leaving, which is a whole nother situation. And you know, from there it was kind of an aspect as like what are we gonna do with T, you know? So it was like I was there, but I wasn't there. And for a long time, like even though I was there and I was working, my heart wasn't in it, you know? And for almost 2 years it was just like, you know, I'm just letting the year pass by, you know, letting the years pass by and letting the seasons pass by, which which didn't resonate with me at all. And you know, I had a deep conversation with the coaching staff there and with my family, and decided that it would be best for me to you know, go for another change, because it gets to a point where, you know, you can get depressed, you know, if you're not doing what you want to do, you know. And it's hard to get in that state to really function, you know, like you fully can, you know, where you're yourself and you're being who you are and doing what you love, you know, that has a toll and affects you. And if it affects you, you know, it can affect other people. So, you know, it got to a point where definitely had to have that conversation and decided it was best for me to find a better situation, you know. And that led me to the University of West Georgia, you know. Go T-Wolves, man. Love y'all. And you know, this season went great, man. So this is my first season like really getting my feet wet, being able to be in the front lines and being out there and doing what I do, and it felt great, honestly, you know. Getting back to who I am felt great. And you know, that's in a grand scheme, that's really how my career went, you know. I give all the glory to God, and you know, just kind of take everything one day at a time. You have to, you know.
Ooh,
And you know, so it's just like one of them things, you know.
I know that's right. You better let
Yeah,
them. So, you know, West Georgia, I believe, is ASUN, correct?
yeah, yeah.
So so going from junior college, because there's some dogs that come out of junior college, and
Oh
I think
yeah, oh yeah,
a lot of people like to. You were saying, you know, like man, like JUCO, like I know a lot of people like JUCO. They're like, oh, why this? It's like a lot of dogs come out of JUCO and then
yeah.
become some of the greatest. But my question for you is like, what was the transition like going from junior college to playing in the SoCon to the ASUN? What was that transition like?
You know, the biggest thing with me was like in JUCO players, some of the best athletes, some of the best bucket getters, like some of the best dogs you'll get in the country everywhere. Once you transition from JUCO to a conference like the SoCon or the conference like the ASUN, it's all about IQ and it's all about concepts, you know. So with me going into Wofford, like I had a hard time like understanding concepts. Like, hey, this is what you're supposed to do, and this is why you're supposed to do it. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, but wouldn't it just be easier just to do this since I already do this? And it's situations like that all the time, and understanding different play styles and things of that nature. So it's just very much more integral. Play style is always fast, but in JUCO you play fast too because it's more free flowing. So I really think like understanding like I think half court offense is the biggest thing when you're talking about JUCO to a conference Division 1. So anybody that's in JUCO right now that asks me, those are the things that I kind of hint at them towards. And you definitely have to be coachable and understanding. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, man. I think that's the biggest thing.
And because nowadays, like they, if you play JUCO now, like all your years is like that doesn't affect your eligibility anymore. You could play
Yeah,
it.
it's crazy. They just gave me my year back from JUCO, so it was actually it's actually wild. It's
Well, there
actually
goes your
insane.
that's a blessing right there. Get your extra year back.
Look at God, look at God, look at God, look at
Not
God.
because back in the when I was here's the thing. I went to JUCO, and when I was
Mhm.
at JUCO, the junior college I went to, they didn't have a women's basketball program. They
Right.
had a women's basketball program by the time I graduated.
Mm.
And now it's like, oh, so when back in the day, junior college, that was your 2 years. And then when you transferred to like a 4 year someone, like that was all, that was it.
That was
But
it. Yeah.
when COVID hit, everybody's years got back.
Yeah.
So now all the JUCO years, everybody that played JUCO years, you getting your 2 year extra years back. I'm like,
Yeah.
dang,
No,
what?
yeah, the NCAA is definitely blessing a lot of people. They've definitely blessed a lot of people recently, with those years.
My question for you is though, like, my thing is I shout out to all the male athletes such as yourself that be advocating for women's sports and that be
Most
supporting,
definitely.
you
Absolutely.
know. So what is it about you that like what inspired you to just advocate for women's sports and like women's sports creators and stuff?
I feel like women don't get the praise that they deserve, especially over I think the past few years is when like people like actually started like taking like real notice and things of that nature when it comes to women, when it comes to sports, when it comes to podcasts, things of that nature. And I think it's just an aspect of people just understanding and really being like not even tolerant, but just like I think understanding is the best word that hey, like women are here too, like they can do this as well. And when it comes to sports, basketball wise, my favorite player of all time is always gonna be my big sister Asia. Shout out to you, Asia. And my favorite right now in college basketball is always gonna be my little sister. Shout out to Malaysia. Think y'all played today, tomorrow. They play tomorrow, for the University of South Carolina. And I think that when you talk about people being entertained and really understanding concepts and giving notoriety, I think that you just have to understand that women play a pivotal role in that. And that goes beyond just sports and media. That's in life as well. I was always raised to respect women at all times. I'm a mama's boy, love my mom to death. Shout out to you, mom. But that's just how I was raised. And I think it's definitely something that I think it's been viewed a lot more, but I think that there's a larger aspect that it could as well. So you definitely got to keep that in perspective too. But yeah, yeah, that's how I feel about it.
South Carolina, like, North Carolina is known as the hoop state, and then South Carolina, they got a lot of hoopers, but like,
Yeah,
you got like a whole lot of hoopers coming out of South Carolina. You got Chavez, you got Juice, and then you mentioned Asia. What's it like to have, say Asia being one of the top players out of South Carolina to just represent South Carolina sports, but also like beyond with how she is what she is doing with
you
everything.
know. I love it. I think it's well deserved, honestly. If you look at Asia's story and her aspect of like how she got to where she is, it would be no surprise that she's where she is today. And growing up, it was always when you're younger, you don't really understand, but when you get older, you really understand the gravity of what somebody does and what they're doing, and I think Asia has done a tremendous job with herself, her brand, and the teams that she's played for, and that goes for all the greats that have come through South Carolina and played. My biggest heroes growing up, who are now my good friends, I call them big brothers, you got Seventh Woods, Chavez Goodwin, Devontae Shuler, Javante Cook, you got Juice, Trey Hannibal, you got a lot of players that come through and make a real impact. Tevin Mack and Clowney, they all play a pivotal part in bringing an identity to South Carolina. And that plays a huge role in just being who we are, because you need that. And me being one of the younger players that's starting to get into that phase and wanting to be where they are and starting to have those conversations, it's easier now to have somebody mentor you and look over you and saying, hey, you should do this, or hey, this is what you need to do and this is why, or hey, I did this, so I don't need you doing this. This is a mistake I made, so this is what you need to look out for. And those are great conversations to have and great people to have in your corner, so
For sure. Like my question for you is like when it comes to representation, like especially like both on and off the court, how important is it? Especially like say somebody was to, you know, look up to you and like, man, that's who I want to be, and how important is that?
I feel like that's everything. I was always taught to conduct yourself in a proper way. Always act like somebody's watching you because somebody is. And I think especially the past few years when I've been in my mentoring stages, I think that the best thing that I've gotten was like, A, like you conduct yourself the right way. Like, A, you hold yourself in a high standard. And my biggest thing is just being true. Like, you stay humble, always working, stay down, stay out of trouble. I think that's the biggest thing. Cause you never know who's going to be what when they grow up. And if you have the opportunity to mold somebody into being a great person in this society or being a great man or woman, I feel like that's something that's serious. That's a life you're talking about, and somebody's trusting you into guiding them, especially with big decisions and understanding who they are and how to navigate through this thing called life. I think that that's a huge opportunity for you and that person. So
For sure, like, cause I always my thing is for me when it comes to representation in sports, I feel like I always have to ask guests this because, you know, everybody wants that person to look up to or say, hey, like, I seen this person and like, just I can be able to relate to them.
yeah,
And, I just think it's like like I said, I feel like representation is it matters. It's very important, just like you said. Somebody's always watching, so
yeah.
but you know, it's like I got to make my own representation because there ain't
No,
no.
absolutely. And to give you your flowers, because this is an amazing podcast, Bonafide her podcast, giving people the platform to be themselves and understanding that this is a safe space and that you give people that opportunity to express themselves and issues, is complete flowers to you. And it speaks a lot of your character and who you are too, Ash. So, just to give you a little love in there.
Oh, don't make me cry now, boy. I be the one giving people flowers because my thing is me. I feel like for me, I always say I want to give a safe space to the athletes because it is important for a safe space for athletes because I always say, and I always want to give people like this is a lesson I've learned, and you got to go where you feel appreciated and
Yep,
valued, and respected, and not tolerated. So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
but my question for you is, as an athlete and a black man, how important is mental health to you?
Mental health is everything. Um, I feel like, and it's great. I feel like a lot more people are starting to take notice and really are making that a priority in the athletic world. Mental health is a pivotal part of who you are as a person and as an athlete as well. You have a lot of players who aren't right. Um, in a perspective of themselves, which can lead to problems on and off the court. And I think that all kind of plays a role into understanding who you are and, like you said, having a safe space to go to and um voicing your opinions and things of that nature. But I think it's a huge part, especially in today's age. I feel like it's always been an issue, but I feel like now, especially with social media and a lot of influences going on, you definitely have to have a hold, and have something to hold on to. And I feel like that's where your faith comes into play, and then having those people to talk to and things of that nature. So
Because my thing is, here's the thing, and you know, a lot of people don't understand. Like, and I always say this in my athletes advocate broadcast channel because I always have to,
mm,
because I do this. I always say that athletes are humans first, and I always say that, and I wish people would understand like the college athletes, what they're doing is a job. Like you try
yep,
waking up at 5 in the morning to get to all these workouts, and
yep.
then after that, go to class, and then go to all the, say position work and weights and everything. You let us know how that goes,
It's
and
a it's a real thing. It's a real thing, man. I feel like a lot of people don't understand that if you're not an athlete. So it's easy to get caught up in the, oh, you play basketball, or hey, you play football, like your life isn't that hard. Like you're an athlete. You get special treatment, or people treat you a certain type of way, but it's like there's certain stuff that comes with that as well. So like you get up at 10, 11, and go about your day how you want to go about it. I got to get up at 5. I got to go to conditioning in the morning. After conditioning, I got to go get treatment. After treatment, I have to go to workouts. After workouts, then I got to go to class. After class, get lunch. After lunch, go to weights. After weights, get treatment again. After treatment, go to practice. After practice, go to dinner. After dinner, come back, shoot around that night, then get rest. It's a whole thing, and that's not considering extra work that you get in by yourself as well. So it's I feel like athletes definitely don't get I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna say that I don't feel like it's a real understanding of like what goes into it. And it goes and it shows you why only a certain amount of people can get to that level, especially in the college aspect, because a lot of people can't handle it, so it's definitely just one of those things.
man, say it louder to the folks in the back. Especially, I have to, especially like for me, when I have to, I always want to explain that, especially for all the girls that be like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I want a relationship with an athlete." Like, you okay? I'm gonna
Hey,
like,
hey, it's a lot that goes to it. It ain't for hey, ladies, it's not for everybody. I'm telling you,
it's
it's
not.
not for everybody.
It's not for everybody. That's why like my thing is like, ladies, you understand a man like a athlete schedule like I do, like
Hmm.
you would understand. Like you better
Yeah.
be blessed if you get a text back saying, "Hey, I'm so sorry, I've been busy and stuff." Like
Hey. It's a
like
lot. Hey, yeah, hopefully you have that communication where y'all get to the point where you understand each other's schedule. Like you get to the point where you can look at your phone and be like, "Oh, okay, he's in weights right now." Or, oh, okay, he's in practice. Like you can look at the time and start scheduling. But it's not for everybody, man. Having a relationship with athletes is hard. And I think that itself like gets a bad rap too.
We
You
got to
know,
talk about
so
that. Can you explain? Because we have to talk about that because I feel like, just for me, when I was growing, like, you probably always, everybody, almost probably a lot of Hoopers' dream was to always have the love and basketball relationship like Monica and Quincy, or to have someone like that, minus whatever was below all that stuff. But like, I think a lot. I think the just the misconception of like a relationship with the athlete. Like,
mhm.
honestly, I ain't never been in a relationship, but I'll be seeing it. But like, if I was to be in a relationship with an athlete, like, I know I would understand because I mean I'm athlete and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
but like, I need to like, can you explain the misconceptions of like having a relationship with an athlete, like how folks can actually get a better understanding of it? Because
You know, um, and it can go both ways. You know, dating an athlete and being an athlete, it can work just because you can understand, you know. Does it have to be that way? Clearly not. I've there's plenty of situations where I've seen both aspects, you know, of a young lady dating one of my teammates or whatever that isn't an athlete and they make it work. So, you know, or you know, if you see two athletes and they date each other as well, you know, it can work in both aspects. You know, I definitely think that you just have to have an understanding and communication to where you understand where priorities are, you know, like, hey, like this is what I'm doing. Like, you got to understand, like, hey, this is my job. Like, you know, this is my career we're talking about. You know, this is what I get paid to do. So I have an obligation to do this, and this. And, it kind of gets in a point where you got to fit in where you got to get in where you fit in, you know. If you know you're not ready for a relationship that calls for a little bit less communication because of this and that, and you throw yourself in there, now you're working problems. Because now you're trying to mold yourself to fit somebody's life just so you can be in their life. You know what I'm saying? So
mm-hmm.
and that's where things get tricky, you know. Because now you're talking about later on down the line, hey, I never really liked this to begin with. Let's see if you can change this. Well, you know, this was my thing from the beginning, and I told you that, you know what I'm saying? So it'll be situations like that. But I mean, if you find the right person, I mean, regardless if they play basketball, if they're a lawyer, doctor, you know, if they work at Wendy's, McDonald's, you know, if the situation is right and you both keep God in your life and keep God first, you know, have that relationship aspect, I feel like anything can work, you know.
For sure, because I feel like there's some folks, I think they may like the lifestyle of it, like, and that I feel like that's another misconception is the
The
lifestyle of it.
glamour.
Yes, the
and
glamour.
and it's a lot of things that come with that on the backside too. So you know, you like the person having a certain status on social media. You gotta understand that there's certain things that come with that as well. Like certain people gonna like and certain people gonna comment on the post. Like certain athlete goes out on campus, he's really popular. Certain people gonna want pictures. Certain people gonna want conversations. You know, and as long as I feel like you keep it respectful, you keep it cordial. It's never a issue, you know, but that's definitely has to be an understanding and stuff like that as well, because you know it can get hard, and you know jealousy can play a real big thing in the stuff like that too, you know. So and it's understandable naturally, but you know it's just one of those things that can, you know what I'm saying, like,
Y'all, just understanding a whole comprehension would be great.
yeah,
The whole comprehension would be great.
yeah.
Just if y'all be on the same page, that would be great.
Yeah, just be on the A, that's all it come down to.
I'm just saying. I'm just I be wanting to say explain it to folks, but folks ain't ready for that conversation.
Hey,
I was just saying, but like,
hey,
because the thing is, say if like, their partner or their spouse go overseas, y'all gonna have to understand, y'all gonna have to
so
talk
that's
about
a
it.
whole nother situation. You know what I'm saying? That's a whole nother convo. Understanding, hey, I'm gonna be over there.
But I
These
would love to
hours,
have you there too.
that
So like,
if we're not doing that, these the hours that I can talk. You know what I'm saying? Y'all, I got a 12-hour difference between it. So it's 2 in the morning for me, but it's 6 in the afternoon for you. So when we gonna talk? You know what I'm saying? Like it'd be real situations like that. And shout out to my big brother Brandon Shirley Ross. Him and his wife, they do an amazing job at it. Shout out to Coach Ash. She coaches the girls team at Wofford. And you know, just training with Brandis, I was like, man, how do you do it, bro? You're going overseas, and he's telling me that they're talking. He got to call her at 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning, like she's at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He's 4 in the morning. This how they have conversations and stuff like that, bro. It's a lot, man. It's a lot, and you got to be ready for it. And not everybody is, so you know.
Woo, cause on the same, we at the point like it's
Yeah,
coming at the age. But
yeah,
I noticed you are huge in your faith because, like, I was like, oh, shout out to the men and the athletes that's huge in their faith.
most def, most
Hey,
def, most def,
hey,
most def.
hey.
Yeah.
But my question is, how has faith, like, how has faith played a huge part in like both your career, both on and off the court?
Yeah, I think faith definitely keeps you grounded, you know. Um, my favorite verse is John 14:8, you know, and the verse says, you know, if you have God, you have all you need. And my from my aspect, you know, I grew up in the church, and you know, my family is very big on our spirituality and our faith. And you know, that's how we live, you know, that's how we derive how we go about things, you know, understanding that there's going to be situations that we don't like, and there's going to be tasks that we do like. And just not getting too high, not getting too low, but staying consistent, you know, and understanding that God is the root of all things. You know, Jesus is a pillar in everything that we do, and ultimately that we live our life for him and to do his will. So you know, I try to do my best to spread the gospel when I can, and be a great influence in that aspect.
Do you feel like, in ways, how do you utilize your faith through, the game?
you know I feel like you definitely have to give God the glory in all aspects. I feel like the past few years I really got to look back and look at my career and saying, man, God, like you've brought me such a long way. And even in the situations like where you think like, man, I'm not even supposed to be here, you know? And it's easy to get lost in everything else and worldly things and accolades and going places and money and friends, and but to get a real grasp and understanding of, hey, I wouldn't be anything if it wasn't for Jesus Christ or God. That's a whole nother understanding and feeling that you definitely have to acknowledge and on a higher aspect have to understand. So
Ooh, where's my little fan for a moment? Okay, so yeah, I look now. I'm just saying, you have fans like I don't. This is if this was the fan right here, I'd be like,
in church, yeah, oh, we'll have a praise break. Come on now.
it's like, hey neighbors, turn to your neighbors, hey neighbors. So, but I'm just my thing is too. Like I think when you have faith, like your faith is. This is the thing that, and I think I've learned from faith is timing. When you trust in God, you also got to trust in His timing because
Yeah,
patience, Lord have mercy. I know a lot of
yeah,
people don't have
me
patience.
too.
I, for one, patience was the biggest thing that I've like had to like learn more. And at this point, my patience has gone just beyond.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think when you trust in God, you trust in His faith. Of course,
yeah,
you trust in His timing. And you gotta be patient because, yeah, you could see someone else having that blessing, but you didn't know how long they had to wait for that blessing.
exactly, exactly. Or what they had to do to get it as well. So, I feel like you definitely have to understand. And that actually, I'm glad that you brought that point up because that was a big thing for me as well. for a long time I was like feeling, when I was younger, I was feeling like other people got stuff that I deserved, and I was like, man, why is he doing this, man? I'm living my life the right way, man. I don't like, I'm doing this, he ain't doing that. Like, why? You know what I'm saying? And it took me a while to really understand, and especially with the reading the Bible and doing Bible study and understanding, talking with my family and my pastor and things of that nature. You got to understand that your race is your race, and your life is your life, and everybody else's life isn't the same. So their qualifications for certain things is different for yours, and vice versa. I'm sure it's plenty of times where somebody's looked at you and said, dang, why do they have this and I don't have that? And it's because that they don't understand the work that you put in, and to get to where you are, to get the blessings that you have, so it all comes back to what you said with God's timing. So
If somebody heard a single inch of my story, what I had to go through, it'll be a whole bunch of, probably like a whole bunch of waters or teas.
yeah, absolutely.
I'm just saying, like, cause my thing is like, some folks ain't ready. I don't. I feel like I used to think like, man, I don't think anybody ready for my story. If they heard a bunch of stories, like, I don't
Yeah,
know if I can handle her, man. Like,
right.
but I'm like, you got to see. I feel like for me, another thing is you got to surround yourself with those who fully appreciate you, like who
Yeah,
fully like appreciates you. So it's like,
yeah.
yes, everybody has a story that can be very messy, but
Hmm.
I mean, you think that your house was clean when you got in there? Probably wasn't, but
Yeah.
you had to clean that up.
Yeah,
So I mean,
absolutely, absolutely.
you can't be throwing stones and try to hide your hand like it's
No,
perfect.
most definitely,
So
most definitely, most definitely.
I'm just saying. But folks ain't ready for that conversation though. Folks ain't ready for that. So it's a lot of
said
conversation
that
folks
said
ain't.
they keep that one on the back burner, huh?
I'm just saying, but like, it's one of those things like folks ain't ready for that conversation.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I could make a lot of people clutch their pearls. Do I?
Hey,
I could do that.
hey.
So, but so I always ask my guests this question. But for the men's, you know, what makes Tauris Watson authentic, and what makes your story stand out?
I feel like my story is different um because I was such an underdog. I was definitely in a situation where I wasn't supposed to get to this aspect, or I wasn't supposed to get to this level, or I wasn't supposed to get this notoriety or recognition or accolades, or you know what I'm saying? And for people to really understand this for another time, my backstory and where I come from and the things I've had to do to get to the level that I'm at and the work that I've put in. I feel like that's who I am, and that's what I'm really known for. I feel like if you ask anybody, they'll say, "Oh my God, he's a great guy," but more so than that, his perseverance and his work ethic, like that's who he really is. You know what I'm saying? And I pride myself on that. So I don't let nobody mess with that. I don't like nobody messing with my reputation or let nobody mess with my name, because my name is who I am, and my name has a story. And I feel like that story is worth telling, and it's me. Everybody's different, everybody has their own story, so that's mine, so
Ooh, okay, okay, okay. Your name has a story. It absolutely does. Hello. So, okay. That's what it is. Okay. That is a. I ain't gonna lie. That answer was smooth right there, but
Appreciate you.
it's so real.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you.
I was. I try to let folks know this is a raw, real podcast. Ain't no. I mean, there may be bloopers, but it raw, real. It's all raw.
No, most deaf, most deaf, most deaf.
Can you let the folks know how where they could support you and if there's any upcoming like events happening for you?
Yeah, 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 for sure. You can always follow me on Instagram, Twitter. My Twitter is Tauris Watson. That's just my name. My Instagram is at Tauris Watt 21. So TAURISWAT 21. as far as things coming up, man, graduating, about to graduate with my undergrad. You know what
Ooh,
I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Business econ
ooh.
major, but super excited for that. About to choose my new school for to finish out my grad seasons the next 2 years. So definitely be tuned for that as well. And for all the other stuff, we'll keep you tuned.
Ooh, you let me know if you need a graphic design for like that
Absolutely.
transfer course.
You the first one I'm calling. It's over with.
That's
It's
all.
done. It's done.
I'm
It's done.
excited,
It's done.
'cause,
It's a done deal. It's done. It was
you
already done.
know, just saying,
It was already done. It was already done.
I'm just saying, everybody gotta eat. Everybody gotta eat. So
Everybody gotta eat. Everybody gotta eat. You get it.
you get it, gotta get it. So
Come on now.
Thank you guys for tuning in to
Hey,
Bonafide Her episode 2120
hey,
featuring Tauris Watson. Big shout out to Tauris
nah,
for
shouts out to you. Sure, nothing but a blessing coming on here. I appreciate you. Like I said, love everything you doing, Ash. Everything, hey, y'all, everything that Ash doing, all y'all need to support. Like it's not like it's without a doubt one of the dopest women on the planet. Definitely humble, nurturing, loving. So, nothing but love for you, Ash, and everything that you do.
oh yeah, I'm gonna cry later on. Uh, Thank you guys for tuning in. You can check out the live replay after this. Thank you guys for tuning in.
That
Peace.
those